And welcome to the Midday Show.
No drum roll?
Everett. He is Mark Bassi. We haven't done the drum roll in a very long time. It's been.
We haven't done the show in a long time.
we have not. Well, that's why I'm excited to do it today. I did write down a list of things that I feel like.
Oh dear God, you got a whole sheet.
I made a list of things I feel like we would have talked about. I feel like we would have talked about Jason Aldean.
Of course.
I feel like we would have talked about the PA budget. I feel like we would have talked about the writers' strike possibly. There was the congressional aliens hearings. Yes. Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX guy, was let off. I don't know if you saw this.
He's off?
Not completely, but he has not been charged so far with what he has gone.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to.
I did not know that.
I saw Oppenheimer. Ramaswamy's up in the polls. U.S. women's soccer had a really close call. I
heard they survived on a ball that hit the post.
Twitter is no longer Twitter.
I know. What is it, X?
I traveled. I went to Atlantic City. I went to Philadelphia. I saw basketball. I saw Luke Combs. Have you heard of the lady on the plane?
I saw that, and on your list, and first thing I thought of was snakes on a plane.
No, have you heard about this at all?
This isn't the one that the plane turned around and went back, was it?
Kind of, sort of. So those are all things we're going to talk about. Stay tuned. Yeah. All I want to do is feel awesome. All I want to do is feel awesome. All I want to do is feel awesome. How are you feeling this month? How were you feeling in July?
Well, yeah, I was going to say it is now August, and the best/worst month out of the year for a lot of people.
Why is that true?
Well, if you're a kid or a teacher, then there's like no more buffer. Like it's coming.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, I mean, don't you remember as a kid, like fall there was a part of it that sucked, and as an adult, I think fall's great. I love it.
I'm weird. I liked school for the most part. Very rarely did I worry about school coming. I was usually somewhat excited again to like be around my friends, those types of things.
Because when you walked in, the chicks just flocked to you.
All 42 of my graduating class.
A swarm that but yeah, I don't know. We discussed with someone else. I don't remember who I was talking to, just about how the older you get. Oh, it was Melissa, one of our writers. Just as you get older, just time seems to go faster, and it just seems like it just got hot, and then all of a sudden, now it's August, and I know it's only August 1st, and we still have weeks, but still, it is. Summer seems it, but then I think when you look back, we've had so much rain.
Yep.
It almost seems like the dry June was forever ago. Because it seems like it's rained every day forever.
I was talking with somebody last week about this. It feels now a lot of years in Pennsylvania, it feels like we have 10 seasons. This one feels like we've had 20. Feels like we had like a desert period. Then we had
the monsoon
period. Yep. Now we're back in the summer. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster. I was traveling. I went to Atlantic City. I went to Philly.
You broke?
No, I'm not broke. When's the last time you were in Atlantic City?
It wasn't that long ago, actually. A couple of years ago, I probably told this story. I was sitting home. I was actually at my desk, at my computer on a Saturday morning, and a buddy of mine from college called me. He didn't text me. My phone was ringing, and I did one of these. What does he want? Whatever. So I just answered it because he's one of my favorite people from college. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I like nothing. He said, "I have a ticket for you to see Guns N' Roses at the Hard Rock in Atlantic City tonight if you can get to Atlantic City."
Okay.
So I obviously got there.
Nice.
So that was, but I got there. Was it dark by the time I got there? Because this was, and so I don't know. Like I saw the boardwalk. We walked up and down the boardwalk. I obviously saw the Hard Rock, but I didn't really get to see Atlantic City per se.
Okay. So recently.
But yeah, like 2 years ago.
So okay,
it was a good story. I like this story.
No, that was good. I'm not comparing it to New Orleans, but there is like this idea that New Orleans was never rebuilt, and they just kind of like forfeited parts of the city. And Atlantic City, very similar. Like I know, like it's not the same catastrophe and all this, and it feels like an unfair comparison. But there are parts of Atlantic City where you can tell they have just kind of like forfeited. They have forfeited the city. Now, maybe over time, who knows what will happen. But I mean, that hurricane was a decade ago now.
Oh, well, Yeah, Obama was in because I remember Chris Christie talking to Obama during the.
I would imagine they're almost a decade removed from that flooding, and it is still. I mean, you can tell the remnants of it, that it was hit hard, that there are parts of Atlantic City that have not recovered.
Well,
I was really surprised.
When you think, and I don't know when they started, when casinos went in Pennsylvania. I'm trying to think of how long it's been now. Mm-hmm. But when I was a kid, it was Vegas and Atlantic City and like Tahoe. But there were bus trips all the time to Atlantic City. You picked up the Sun Gazette and you saw, whether it was AAA or whether it was some other private company or whatever. But because if you wanted to play slot machines or you wanted to play blackjack or you wanted that was the only place to go. Yeah. And now, hell, you can play slot machines in the 7-Eleven. Yeah. And, with Mohegan Sun and with Hollywood Casino and all these that are just so much closer. But, so I can there's something still about going to Vegas because there's shows and now they have a professional hockey team. They have a professional football team. Baseball's coming. Basketball's coming. Mm-hmm. Vegas is still Vegas. Atlantic City will never be the same.
No, and you can tell. So we were in Atlantic City, did some basketball stuff, did some beach stuff, and then went to Philadelphia. While I was in Philadelphia, I saw Luke Combs, who I don't know if you know who Luke Combs is or not. Sold out, just making sure, sold out Lincoln Financial Field where the Eagles play. Really, really neat experience. I bring that up to transition to Jason Aldean.
Well, before we get to Aldean, I just need to ask you this. At the basketball tournament, how bad did you get outcoached?
Not badly. I mean, the talent is unbelievable. We went 3-3. We had a very, very good weekend.
Well, I meant it's the other coaching talent.
The coaching
when they walked over and looked at you on the bench, did they think like, I got this guy?
I will say this to you. There is low-level AAU, and then there's high-level AAU. Most people's perception of AAU is trash, like that. It's basically people coaching who can't coach anywhere else. The high-level, like hoop group AAU coaches, it is superior to most high school coaching. By far.
You told me that last week, and I would not. My perception was not that.
If you take like the best 64 teams on the East Coast, their coaching is superior to most high school coaching. Now, there are travel programs out there that are what most people's perception is. It's garbage, it's bad, but no, like AAU has kind of turned a corner in a sense that like there are these pillar programs that arguably are just as good as college coaching.
All right, we'll get to Jason Aldean because that's what people want to talk about. But before we go, so like, you know a lot about basketball. You know a lot about basketball. So these guys are good enough that you're learning from them?
Oh, I see. When I go to these AAU tournaments, especially like the showcase stuff, I see stuff that I am immediately stealing, like throwing in the back of my brain, whether it's what coaches say, it's something that they ran, an inbounds play, a strategy. But a lot of times, like the nice thing about AAU is you can hear everything. So you can go up and stand right behind a program's bench, and there's nothing. There's nothing blocking you from hearing what they're telling their players, what they're discussing. I get a lot of stuff walking around at an AAU event like that. But again, it's got to be the right event.
Right, but that tells you how good the coaches are. Because anything, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And in sports, people are stealing stuff all the time from, but you only steal from people that know what the hell they're doing.
Sure, absolutely.
So, all right. Anyway, Jason Aldean.
No, so I went to Luke Combs. It was awesome. You'll like this. In the first time ever in the history of the Billboard charts, in the Hot 100, the top 3 songs are all country songs.
Huh.
There is a Luke Combs song, there is a Morgan Wallen song, and then third is Jason Aldean, which is what the controversy is all about. The controversy certainly isn't hurting Jason Aldean's numbers.
You don't think?
And the radio play and everything else that is happening.
We've got to a point. I mean, where do you begin with cancel culture and the protests? And there's obviously people like what's his name? Who was the
I need more than
that guy. Who was the big Hollywood guy that's in jail now that all the women?
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein. That's it. You know what I was gonna say Harvey Keitel, and I was like, it's not Harvey Keitel, and I don't want to name the wrong guy. Yeah, Harvey. There are people that are predators. There are really bad people that kind of like stuff like Bill Cosby. there are issues like that of things that if you want to pull the Cosby Show because of what Bill Cosby did, I get it. But then there's a lot of we've seen so many examples of like the uproar about the Dolly Parton Miley Cyrus song about rainbow that people are like, oh, it's bad, and then it has the opposite effect. It gets so much more publicity. And the Jason Aldean song, which I understand there's certainly racial undertones, but I also understand the people who say this is just news footage. And but be that as it may, they certainly made the song way more popular than it ever would have been, I would suspect.
Oh,
I mean, it's a good, it's fine song. I don't think it's the greatest country song of all time.
I've argued with people. I don't think CMT should have pulled it. But I've also said this: I skip it every time it comes on. I don't think
it's that good.
I don't think it's that great of a song. Like, just if you're just talking about the song itself, I don't particularly enjoy the song. I don't think CMT should have pulled it. But I've said this before too. I think there's a lot of times in cancel culture where it's not it just gets to a point where if you don't want to hear it or listen to it, don't listen to it. Like I said to you, I don't like the song. I skip the song every time it comes on. We've just gotten to a point in society where, like, God forbid somebody just skip or not watch something that is controversial or that they don't agree with. Like you said, there are instances where it's very clear that it is wrong to the majority of people in society, such as Cosby and other things. I have heard people defend the video. I have heard people trash the video. I have heard it from all different angles. And most of the time as I'm listening, I go, oh, I kind of get that. Or I can see that. And I'm one of those people that have said, whether you like the video or dislike the video, whether you read into the tones or you read into it differently, I don't think CMT should have pulled it. I thought it was a move that was probably a little early is the wrong word. It feels as if they reacted. It feels as if it was like a gut reaction.
An overreact?
Yes, and they pulled it. And now the opposite's happening. Like, literally, you can't go anywhere without hearing or seeing this song and video.
Well, and you're correct. And I agree with your point 100% from the standpoint of this is art. And forever, whether back in the day when there was all these things about, how restrictive it was that I think the Brady Bunch was the first married couple that you ever saw on TV in the same bed. And I Dream of Jeannie, you couldn't see your belly button because there was, this was considered obscene. And now we've got, society's moved and we're into pornography and all this stuff. And people want to ban pornography. And then but all the internet's pornography. And the simple aspect of if you don't like it, just turn the page, because not everyone's going to like every form of art. And there is, art does it, comedians do it. It is this level of pushing the envelope, and that's part of what art is supposed to do, to elicit a reaction. And if some of those reactions are going to fire you up.
I've also said this. I think this video is a very good example of, if you're looking for it, you will find it. And I think we've gotten to a point where now, if you're for a cause, whether it's a racial cause, climate change, like whatever your cause is, whatever your fight is against, we have gotten to a point where, like, you can almost find it in anything. So if you're looking for it, you are going to find it. Same vice versa. If you're looking for ways to defend the video, you will find ways to defend it. So I think everyone should have the ability to see it if they want to see it, and everyone should have the ability to not watch it if they don't want to watch it.
Right.
I hate to dumb it down or simplify it that way, but that has been my take on this from the beginning. I don't understand anybody who has an issue with the other side and then has an issue with them wanting to watch it, or has an issue with them not wanting to watch it. I don't have an issue with either side. And I just don't understand where we have gotten to a place now where, like, if I don't want you to watch it, you can't watch it. And vice versa. If I want to watch it, you should have to hear it all the time. And I disagree.
Well, I agree with you. And the thing that I've always found humorous is it goes back to when Chris Rock said about selective outrage in his special, that we can all cite examples of when something was quote unquote censored and we were outraged. And, you watch Straight Outta Compton, and when they got arrested for playing F the Police live I think it was in Detroit where they got arrested, and the FBI sending warnings, you can't play that song because, and we watch this now 30 years later, and we're like, how crazy is that they couldn't play? You know, it's just become a part of American lexicon now that the song is what it is. But then you can't support that and then come back and not support this. And when Bob Marley wrote I Shot the Sheriff, there are people that are outraged. But yeah, the ability to...
I said the same thing about movies this summer. Like, you can't have an issue with Sound of Freedom and then go watch Mission Impossible and root for Tom Cruise and Scientology. Like, you can't, like you said, it is selective.
Well,
people are picking and selecting when it matters to whether or not they get to watch or listen to something. And it doesn't make sense.
In fairness, Tom Cruise is saving the world like once a summer now. So we have to give him a little bit of leeway. I mean, last year he did. Yeah. And this year, how many people could make that flight and then
you'll have to ask all the people beneath him in Scientology that basically do his bidding is what you'd have to ask.
It's funny when you just said that. I just saw a blurb about Leah Remini. You know who Leah Remini?
Absolutely.
When she was on Howard Stern maybe 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And defended and was taking callers, and they said how adult and how well she handled this brunt because most of society is like Scientology is bunk, and that she took all the arrows and she was a wonderful spokesman for it. And now somewhere in the last 20 years, she's become one of the most outspoken critics of it.
Sure.
So anyway, that was just a little aside.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is. I don't understand why there couldn't have been outrage from a certain section of, just like I understand why when NWA did F the Police, there's an outrage from a certain part of society. I get it. That's what it's supposed to be. But why you have to censor it? Well, and instead of just letting the people be outraged and then the story goes away and then something else comes back.
I think that's the part that I struggle with is not the out. Like I get out. Like I have no issue getting on here and saying to people, I dislike this, or I think this is wrong, but I never once have said they should take it down or they shouldn't be allowed to say that, or they shouldn't. And that's the part of it that is really mind blowing to me is the jump from dislike or disagree to nobody should be able to see this. And I just think those things are fewer and far between.
No, I'm with you.
It is what it is.
I am with you.
We got a whole bunch of stuff here. The writer's strike. Have you read anything into the writer's strike?
And
the actor's strike?
I just know it's going on.
Okay.
We should head west and we will get jobs.
Do you think they can, do you think you can scab acting? Like, could you act? You did.
Oh my God.
You were up on the stage.
Oh my God. Well, on TV, you just get 20 takes until you get it right.
That is, yeah. I mean, there is this idea that you do get to kind of, I don't want to call it failing, but you do get to rep it out until you get what you want for on screen.
No, I'm not going to. There are some people who just can't do it. Like, the people who do it are...
How many people do you think who have never tried could do it?
That's a good question.
It's a little bit like my argument to you about swimming was the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, the best swimmers, there's a good chance they've never tried to competitively swim.
Yeah, I think there's lots of people who could do it. Like your friends, the people you know or you went to school with or whatever that have comedic timing would have comedic timing. It might take them a little bit to get over the nervousness.
Sure.
But there was one, there are all these stories you hear about. Back, they did a NASCAR drive-along ad campaign with ESPN years ago, and they would have a NASCAR driver and some schmo sitting in the back seat. And my brother got to do it. He was in the Rusty Wallace car. But there was a guy, Jeff Gordon was driving, and it was this guy like straight out of New York City. And he was like, yeah, we're taking these turns at 200 miles an hour. That's pretty scary stuff, isn't it? And the guy in the back, he's like drinking a coffee, I think. He goes, I drive a cab in the Bronx at night. And like Jeff Gordon's face lit up, and they were talking about it, and they said he was a guy on the camera crew. Okay. And they were just like, hey, you look like a cat. You look like you're from New York. He's like, I am from New York. And they're like, well, hop in and read these lines. And he nailed it. Yeah. So I would bet there are a lot of, I would bet there's more than you. There's a lot of people who have no shot.
No,
but there are some people that have the charisma and could pull it off.
Did you see the South Park AI thing at all? Has
No.
this come up on your feed yet?
No.
So what a group did, and this has
My
to do,
feed is filled with more intellectual stuff than South Park AI. Thank you very much.
So this intellectual. This is first of all, they use South Park in like some of the
No, I know.
most pristine.
I
Okay.
I was just gonna say, if you saw how many like WWE reels I get because I click on them, and then you get more and you get more. So yes. Anyway, go ahead.
Have you seen? So what they did was they took all of the South Park episodes, they loaded it onto this platform. So they have all the background shots, all the scenery, they have all the characters, and they had like 600 plus of each one. So basically what they can do now is they like put in the prompt of what they want to have happen in the episode. And there's this engine that shows where the characters are and how they're moving from scene to scene. And they can make unlimited South Park episodes with this AI.
Oh, I get it. Interesting.
It's
because they have enough of a sample size. That
yes,
they can just...
and it is absolutely incredible. So what the company, I believe it's called Fable, what they are doing is they have stopped using South Park as the example, and they have created 6 other artificial worlds with animated characters, and they are going to release the shows next year. And so again, like voice acting, that kind of stuff, and animation, drawing, all of it. Once you have the initial drawings and what you want it to look like, it's done. I mean, they will they will technically, unless they want someone to come in and specifically change something, they will never need an animator or a voice actor once they have the initial.
So you're saying don't go into voice acting? And
I don't know. Well, maybe not, because if you can get a royalty off of it and you never have to show up to work.
Oh, that's
again,
true.
So maybe voice acting is what to get it. Like,
that's
I don't
true.
know. I don't know where it's going to head, but the AI engine that they showed is absolutely fascinating. Like, you can literally see the platform. It's almost like a board game on a screen, and you can literally see the characters moving and how they're going to interact. What do you got here?
I was just looking. I was wondering, do you want to talk about Oppenheimer today, or do you want to talk about
I'll just mention,
because are we maybe doing
Joe
a show
Smith
with
is
Joe?
going to come Thursday. We're going to talk about Oppenheimer and Barbie. We don't have to like dive into it because I'm sure we're going to do that with Joe. But I will say, if you haven't seen it, go. I know it's a longer movie. You brought it up. I had no issue with the longer movie. I was spoiled. I got to see it in IMAX. An absolutely incredible experience. If you don't know anything about Oppenheimer, it is absolutely fascinating.
So it doesn't matter. You don't need to do homework.
I would argue it is a better movie if you know nothing about it.
Because I was just talking, because I've not been to the movies all summer. And when I was rattling off, I want to see Oppenheimer. I do want to see Barbie. I want to see Mission Impossible. I wanted to see Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see Sound of Freedom.
And you've seen none of them.
And I've seen none of them.
I knew that.
And they are all, like, if there was a group of people and say, we're going to see any of those 5, I would go. I know Indiana Jones disappointed. But Joe saw it and said he really enjoyed it. So it is, my daughter has seen both Barbie and Oppenheimer. She spoke very highly of Barbie. She thinks I'll like it, but B, she's curious to hear my response. And that's the one. She told me she liked Oppenheimer, but it was long. You said it didn't matter.
Barbie is going to be the interesting one to talk about because it's divisive. There are people that think it was not very good, and then there are people who absolutely loved it. So that is kind of the one that I'm curious to see, because I'm curious to see which way I will fall.
Don't take a bathroom break. Listen, if there's a 3-hour movie, I'm taking a bathroom break. There is no. I was just telling this story. So whenever I'm with my kids, because usually when I go to the movies, I'm with my kids, I try to pick a downtime. What I've really got, if I want to see the whole movie, I don't get a drink.
Okay.
Because then I can make it through.
Okay.
But I try to pick a slow spot, and then I run out and I come back and I always say, what did I miss? Then they always say, not much. And it just hit me the other day. They have to be lying. Sometimes I'm sure there wasn't much. And sometimes they're just like, I don't want to explain it.
Do you think you're in the majority or the minority of people that can't make it through a movie? Because I have made this argument. Now, listen, like a 3-hour Avatar, Titanic, whatever, you have to go to the bathroom. I get it. I have been to movie theaters where it's like an hour-and-a-half movie. It's under 2 hours. And we're like 15, 30 minutes into the movie. And someone gets up to go to the bathroom. And I'm just, and like, I don't get it.
Well,
I can't.
First of all, we're old. Second of all, you get that big honking soda and you drink the whole thing in like 10 minutes.
But even if you go before you go into the theater, like to make it, and I understand we're excluding.
Your bladder's not as big as that Uber jug.
And I'm excluding like emergencies. Like I understand that everybody has moments, everybody has emergencies. Like I'm not that rude or naive. But I'm just saying, like, I just didn't know that there were people who consistently cannot make it through an hour-and-a-half movie.
Well, I mean, there are, depending on like prostate issues and ages and things like that. But I am at the age, I'm 51. If when I saw Top Gun last year, I did not get a drink.
Okay.
And if my kids got one, I didn't steal any of it because I'm like, I don't want to leave the theater and then I'm fine. But
do you think there's people that wear diapers to movies?
Well, I'm sure. I think there's people that wear diapers all the time. So, yeah.
Have you? I got alien hearings here.
You know who wears diapers? You know who I think wears diapers? Surgeons, I think.
I would love it. One of the things that I will never get to do this. I would love to bring like a professional on to do this with you, and I would just love to see how they try to steer everything because it's impossible.
You don't have to steer
because it's impossible.
First of all, we're professionals. Second of all, no, I'm serious about that with like surgeons because they can't.
No, they can't leave the surgery.
Right. So if they have a 5 or 6 hour surgery,
they strap it on.
I bet they do.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
Sam Bankman-Fried, he was let off of his first charge, which was it's unbelievable. It was campaign financing. So those charges have been dropped. So all the money that he gave to the Democrats and to some Republicans, all that money is just apparently it was fine. It doesn't matter that it was my money or your money or anybody else who put into FTX. Apparently those charges have been completely dropped. So apparently if you give enough money to the right people in politics, it doesn't matter. So I believe that was 1 of 7. So he still has 6 charges to go. But the actual campaign finance stuff has been completely dropped. Apparently there is nothing wrong with taking users' money and then pulling it out of those funds and giving them to the politicians you support.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Very frustrating.
I mean, it would seem to the lay person, it would seem that that's an issue, but we just don't understand.
I mean, sometimes I have trouble breaking stuff down in less than like 10 seconds. I just broke that down in 10 seconds and I thought it made complete sense.
No, I'm with you.
I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. Then as that was happening, what they tried to distract you with was the alien congressional hearings.
Oh no, they didn't try to distract you. They distracted you.
I honestly, like, not to be super conspiracy theory, but we are talking about aliens. I think this is all a distraction. I really do. They're so vague when they discuss it and talk about it. I am convinced that this is being brought up now so that just these other things, they're just hoping that it's not a big deal to talk about the other things that are going on. It's so vague. They never actually say what they have or what there is.
They have aliens.
Do they? See, exactly. We don't actually know that. I actually know less now after the congressional hearings than more. Everyone's like all excited about it. And I listened to like almost the entire thing. I actually know less. I don't know if there is or there isn't. The lady on the plane. Have you seen this? We'll stay on this thing.
No.
She was the one.
Snakes on a plane?
No, not snakes on a plane. Lady on the plane. She was hoping to get off of the plane because she claimed that the person sitting next to her was not real. And she is like, they have video of her.
Wait, isn't that a good thing?
Well,
because then you don't have an annoying person next to you. Or is the fake person annoying?
I'm guessing the fake person was annoying.
Oh, okay.
Or was creeping her out. So nobody can find her. Somebody in her family has come out and said, because this was like 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks. Someone has come out and said, like, she's fine. She just doesn't want the publicity of what happened in the video. So she's not speaking out. No one has been able to actually pinpoint the person sitting next to her either. What's weird about the video when you watch it is she's not distraught like a crazy person would be distraught. She is a little bit smoother and calmer with her delivery, and she's very straightforward of like, I do not care what anyone thinks. I am not sitting next to that person. That is not a real person. And they got her bags and they let her off of the plane. It is very bizarre if you haven't seen it yet. Lady on the plane, if you have not seen it.
Okay, so what do you mean they can't find the person bought a ticket?
Correct.
They have assigned seats, right?
Correct. And they
have a credit card with a home.
The I should say, like the media, like people that have looked into this, because nowadays you can find.
Oh, the airline knows,
like you can
but the airline's
well,
not.
maybe they don't. That's the thing. They're not saying. Nobody's saying who was sitting next to this lady or what the exact situation was. You would think
when we fly, they know what seat I'm in. They know what seat you're in. And they have your credit card, unless you're paying cash.
Now you're realizing why this story is interesting, because we're now 3 to 4 weeks into this, and no one has actually come out and spoken as to what exactly she was referring to.
So you're thinking she's right.
What I'm saying is, out of all these different things we talk about with conspiracies and this or that, here's an instance where we're so used to just like, I don't want to say the Karens of the world, but we're so used to people getting upset, throwing a tantrum, losing their mind, all these things. And we just dismiss it as somebody is crazy. And what I'm saying is, when you watch the video of this lady, she's not like throwing a tantrum. She's not even necessarily like blaming the airlines or anybody else. She is just simply stating, like, I am not staying on this plane. That is not a real person. And I don't care what any of you think. I need to get off the plane. And they get her bags and they walk her off. And it's very unusual. I don't even know if I would define this creepy. What has made it creepy is the last 3 to 4 weeks, where there's like no solution or no explanation for what has happened.
Huh.
It's very interesting. If you
I will check that out.
Lady on the plane is interesting. I told you we've been talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. If you're not a fan, I understand that.
Who is Vivek Ramaswamy?
Vivek Ramaswamy is an Indian biotech billionaire millennial who is running for president on the Republican ticket.
And you know who he also is?
Who's that?
Your boy.
He is my boy. I've been.
As you started it, you said today, hey, did you see how my boy is doing in the poll?
He is now tied with DeSantis in a couple of polls, both at 12%. Trump is still low 30s. But he has basically moved his way without accepting any money from like the major PACs. He has moved his way up into second place, depending on which poll you look at in the Republican.
All thanks to you. Not thanks to you. Mostly thanks to you.
I would like to think so.
Where did he make his? Because
biotech. So what he did was he started a company for doctors and for different scientists, where they were able to come, and if they created a drug that was approved, they got to basically keep equity or royalties in the drug they made, which is very different from how the rest of the medical industry works. So he was able to get some of these very bright people right out of college with the understanding of, listen, like whatever you're able to solve, whatever you figure out, it's yours. Like it's not the company's, it's yours. And he did very well for himself, obviously.
Apparently.
He did very, very well. So yes, he's Ramaswamy on his way up and up.
So you said, well, he's an Indian name.
Yes.
He was obviously born in the States, or you can't run for president.
Born in the States. I'm trying to think of other things.
And he's 37.
He's 37 years old.
Do you know where he was born? Is he like
I don't
a
know.
West Coast, East Coast?
I know that his company was on the West Coast.
No, he's an interesting story. And just because, like, when you and I were talking, one of the consistent complaints across the spectrum, no matter whether you're right or left, is the ages of these people that we have running. You know, we see Mitch McConnell, who seemed like he had a mini stroke or something in the middle of his speech.
Yeah.
Dianne Feinstein, who, notwithstanding Trump and Biden and how old they are, and kind of even the older people. You know, my mom is going to be 80 in a couple months, and she's like, we need younger people. We just need younger people.
Sure.
So this guy, as I said to you before about your boy, even if he doesn't overtake Trump, and it doesn't seem like anyone will unless there's a legal precedent or whatever, but he has certainly positioned himself, so he'll be 38. And then, like, getting into his to have someone in their early to mid 40s who seems like it not only has a future but has a present. It's like back to it was what was inspiring about Clinton, and it was what was inspiring about Obama. And they talk about Josh Shapiro, who could have a future because he's young. And so it's that breath of fresh air that a lot of people on both sides are looking for. It's going to be interesting because he so clearly has foreign background. Well, and how good are we at handling that? But a lot of people like the fact that he's young and he's smart, and we're all in favor.
And he is disgustingly transparent to the point where sometimes he's talking and I'm almost kind of like, stop. Like the other day he was talking about, they brought up Ukraine and he goes, I would not have defended Ukraine. And they said, would you have defended Taiwan? He says, yes, we need their semiconductors. Just that point. And so it's this idea. He goes, listen, I want to try to limit human casualties. But he goes also too, like, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and tell you like I would defend Taiwan or I would defend Ukraine because of the humanitarian part of it. He's like, Taiwan has things we need. Ukraine did not have as many things as we needed. I'm much more interested in defending Taiwan than I am Ukraine. So it's just, he's so transparent. It's almost like there are times where it's almost a turnoff because he is being so just blunt about it.
I thought, didn't Ukraine, wasn't there something about wheat?
I've been telling you about
stuff.
I've been telling you about wheat and fertilizer in Ukraine, but the problem for the USA, we don't need their wheat, we don't need their fertilizer. Unlike Taiwan, where we need their semiconductors.
Okay.
There's energy and there's also technology advances that we will not be able to make if we do not have Taiwan semiconductor factories and what they're creating for us. Now we can shift that over to the United States quickly, but we have no need to because it's being done in Taiwan at a cheaper cost. So there you go.
I like this comment.
Which
I don't
one?
know who that is.
Which
Facebook
one?
user.
This one?
No, the one below.
The one below.
That one.
And this is why I love the Midday Show. You keep it real. Thank you. You did like that one.
I
knew
do.
you would like that
I
one.
do.
Brad says aliens definitely didn't blow up as much as you think it would. It was almost shocking at how people didn't react to the congressional hearing.
We're just like a little bit numb to. I just say that we're a lot of bit numb, and it's like, oh, they're talking about aliens now.
I don't disagree. Ryan, hey Jeff, is Luke Combs on the King? I have said it before. Morgan Wallen currently has the crown. I think Luke Combs and Morgan Wallen are running country, but right now today, I do think Morgan Wallen is slightly ahead of him, and we'll see where that goes. A couple of last things. Twitter is no longer Twitter; it's the X app.
Yes.
I don't think it doesn't really affect your.
No, I saw a thing about it, and what does it matter, and what they got in trouble on the building.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
He doesn't care
because they did.
The guy's building spaceships. You think he cares about a building?
Well, they didn't have a permit because they were removing something and they didn't tape off a section of the sidewalk to make people to know that it was dangerous.
He has more, and I don't say this like incredulously, but he has more money than the bottom 50% of the world. I don't think he cares about the building. It's like in his world, it doesn't even. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying in general.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
U.S. women's soccer team almost. I will say this. I feel really bad for the new generation of U.S. women's soccer because
they can't win.
They can't win in the sense that what has been built up by Rapinoe and some of the other athletes, not only from what they did accomplish on the field, but then what they have done off of the field and the I don't want to make it sound negative, but what they have done to try to promote their sport, promote feminism, promote their financial standing, all of those things, and you tie it all together, it's just a very difficult situation for like a 20-year-old women's soccer player to walk into because you are going to be judged on the field by the previous group. And you're going to be held to a standard of, hey, you guys fought for all of this stuff, and now you're going to have a draw with, Paraguay, I forget who they played. It's just going to be a very difficult situation. I do sympathize with the new women's soccer.
Well, like these things come to an end. It's kind of like the Olympic basketball when they started letting pros in and we crushed, and we had the dream team, and then after a couple of years, then we took third, and all of a sudden the other countries caught up. You know what happened? UCLA, it happened with North Carolina women's soccer. Like dynasties only last so long, and we were so good and so dominant. For people that don't know, because it just happened early this morning, I guess. If we would have lost, we would have been out of pool play. You know, you have to finish in the top two in your pool, and in extra time, which is that time, you know, after the 90 minutes are up. But so with a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to go, who do we play? Paraguay.
I forget.
They hit a post with a shot, and if it goes in, we're out. And we're the 3-time defending champions or whatever we are, and we're the best. We've been the most dominant team for years and years, and we were almost out early. And so now we'll see. It almost is set up to remind me of like Southern Columbia football last year, where they had a couple. They had some injuries, they had a loss, and people were like, oh my God, what's wrong? And then at the end of the season, they still won the state championship.
there were announcers who were talking. I don't know if you saw this or not. They were talking about the team dancing after the draw and how they shouldn't be dancing and stuff like that. And I feel bad for them because they did advance. Like they did what most countries in the world do not do. But they've set such a standard for themselves. The previous group set such a standard for themselves. And it's not like the previous group was quiet about it. Like the previous group was very vocal about things on and off the field. So they've gotten to a point where even announcers are like, I can't believe they're dancing. And I'm like, I don't know. For a lot of those players, they've never advanced in the world.
Well, I was going to say,
it's just a very difficult situation to be in.
One of the things that I think you did well when you were coaching the Loyal Sock, because there's been so much success year after year after year after year that it's not like I was in the locker room, but when we would talk about this stuff, that you reminded the kids to enjoy this. Whatever you accomplished as this group, just because the last team did something, this is your own group and a unique group of kids. And for some of you, it's the first time. So when you do win a league title, even though at Loyal Sock they've won 11 in a row, enjoy it, celebrate it, because it's still an accomplishment. And don't let the past water down. If Alabama goes and wins the national championship in football this year, it is a great accomplishment for those kids. If they win the SEC title, it's a great accomplishment. And because a bunch of other people have done it before you doesn't lessen. Now, society sees it as a lesson, but it is for those girls. They advanced, and you get into pool play. All you can do is advance. You either advance or go home, survive, and they did. So, no, I agree with you. It wasn't as dominant as we were used to. It wasn't probably what America expected, but they're still alive and kicking. And 16 teams left? Is that what? So, I agree with that you have to celebrate it along the way, and it's one of the great failures that we have in society that when we get to be goal-oriented and we have these things that we want to accomplish, and when we accomplish one, life is much better if we actually, enjoy the moment of being proud or the success or reflecting or whatever, just basking in the glow of what we just did, as opposed to just we won, what's next? And like I said, when you were at Loyal Sock, I thought you were very good about that. Reminding the kids that part of the enjoyment of life is appreciating what you've accomplished and not just turning the page and moving on to something else.
Yeah, I've told you before, I'm not a big fan of Megan Rapinoe. Is it Megan? I'm not a huge fan of Megan Rapinoe. And I've expressed on the show before, kind of why I'm not a huge fan of her. But I will say, people trashing her yesterday for dancing after the draw and advancing with the younger players, I just vehemently disagree with that. I think for her to have the concept or the ability to still celebrate, moving on and progressing and stuff like that, I have no issue with that at all. And again, I don't really like Rapinoe. So
do you like
I
Sue
just want
Bird?
to throw that out there. I do like Sue Bird. She's not one of the greatest athletes of all time, like Rapinoe said in her retirement speech, but I do like Sue Bird.
She's a good basketball player.
She's a very good basketball player. She's just not. If you were making a list of the greatest athletes of all time, I don't know.
I think she's a little biased, but
I get it. Listen, I'm gonna say really nice things about the people that I love too. Some of them probably might not be, some might be hyperbolic, I guess is what I would say.
I mean, she's one of the top 10 women's players of all time.
Totally. And listen, in her sport, in what she does in her world, I mean, Sue Bird deserves a statue. She is incredible. But to say one of the greatest athletes in the history of time, you just start going down through the list, and just Sue Bird's not making
greatest women's basketball player ever. Go.
Greatest women's basketball player ever. Isn't it Cheryl Miller?
It's hard because she was older and the competition wasn't as good.
She's
like the Babe Ruth of basketball.
Okay.
Women's basketball.
That's what I would have went with. I probably would have said Cheryl Miller is the greatest player. Probably the most dominant, but dominant.
Yeah.
Because of who she played with and what she did.
It is tough. I just sprung it on you.
You have literally 60 seconds.
Literally? I was telling you before, the final 2 months of the baseball regular season are going to be fantastic. Just because of the scoreboard watching on a daily basis, if you're a baseball fan, is so much fun. And because the expanded playoffs, there's so many teams in contention. Right now, the Yankees would be out. I'm pretty sure the Phillies are in as the wild card, one of the wild cards in the West. But to see the Yankees and the Red Sox right now are both on the outside looking in, and all these underdogs, but the Yankees and Red Sox are both over 500. But because of teams like Baltimore and Toronto and these teams that have shocked the world, and Tampa's really good again. But we just got to a point where, like a week ago, Seattle and the Angels were like on the outside looking in. Then they got hot, and the Angels kept Ohtani, which I applaud them for, because they're like, hey, we got a once in a ever talent, and we're going to hang on to him and make a run. And since they've kept him, they've had a good second half, and so it is going to be really, really fun. Just every night, just checking your phone. If you're a baseball person, you get it. If you're not, you don't get it. But for the baseball people, this is going to be a really, really special end of the season.
Nice. Well done. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. We'll be back Thursday with Joe Smith. We're going to dive into Barbie, Oppenheimer, and some other summer movie fun.
I should probably go see one before Thursday.
You should be busy between now and Thursday. Should be. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
See ya.